Now, I know a martini is the classic James Bond drink, but this movie had a lot of scotch, so I'm going to go with this. Hey everyone, this is David Stark from Watcher Pass, and I'm here to talk to you about No Time to Die, which is coming to theaters on October 8th, 2021. It's a new Bond film that has long been delayed with, the whole theater closing thing. They've been trying to hold it off for theaters, but I guess now everything is open enough and they're ready to bring it to theaters. And spoilers, this is a really good one. This is a really good movie to see in theaters. If you're comfortable going to theaters, this might be the right time to go. It is a good classic James Bond action film. It's got really good action, really good sound, and just a really long, involved story. I mean, if you want to talk price performance, this is a 2 hour and 43-minute movie. So you're going to get your money's worth on this one. And it has a lot of the things that you really like in a theater experience. It's got, it's got some good, sharp writing. It's got really good action. It's got really good sound. It's kind of the whole package, except for a few things, which we'll talk about now. So I'm going to talk to you about four things I liked about this film, three things I didn't really love, and then go into the ending. So, as you can imagine, there will be spoilers. So, if you don't want to know anything about the film, if you want to go in, and be surprised by this newest James Bond film, then you turn it off now. If you want to know more about the movie, you want to hear more about the story, then let's keep talking. So, in No Time to Die, Bond is retired. He's living his life in some sort of, I think maybe some sort of Caribbean island, just kind of fishing and trying to stay off the grid. He is no longer doing Bond action, and that's it. He's basically, the film is him on vacation and done. It's 2 hours and 43 minutes of him fishing. No, so obviously something terrible happens. The world is threatened, and Bond has to come back to service. But he has found, that the world has changed, and a lot of it stays the same, but a lot has changed in both, his organization and him personally. And so this film is a nice kind of return to form for Daniel Craig. And it appears that this will be the last Daniel Craig James Bond film. I mean, we'll see if that sticks, but that's kind of how it's billed. So the first thing I really loved about this film is the sound. And I know the sound is a weird thing to say for a movie, but this movie just had really, really good use of sound. I mean, maybe I just haven't been to the theater and seen something to take advantage of it like this, but it had just a really good sound landscape and a lot of really great effects that draw you in. There were, some scenes where there was an explosion and, the sound was muffled for a very long time, kind of longer than you would expect. Or you had some scenes where you just had, you get gunfire, you had car chases. All of that was really well done, but there were a lot of very subtle sound touches. There was one scene that took place on ice, and the ice cracking was a really kind of nice effect. And then someone falls into that water, and then you get a kind of muffled soundscape there. There were also some flying scenes where you had like a helmet on, and that also muffled the sound. You had a cockpit, so the sound was really, really well done, and it kind of really made this into an experience that you might be able to get at home if you have a really good setup. But if you don't have a good setup, this is something you want to kind of see in theaters. The second thing I loved is the action. I mean, the action is it's a Bond film, so you expect good action, but this is a nice return to form and a reason to go back to the theaters. You've got car chases, you've got gunplay, you've got hand-to-hand combat, you have explosions, you have kind of all the 007 spy action that you would expect. And so this is a really great way to experience it. And you've Daniel Craig doing what Daniel Craig does best. But I also love that, I think maybe it was Skyfall, the last Bond film, introduced Bond as a little bit more of a tired individual. Kind of the wear on his body and his age was kind of catching up to him, and this has that as well. It's not as much, but there are some scenes where it looks like Daniel Craig is taking a beating, and he does a really good job of kind of showcasing the pain that Bond has been through, and you get that as well in this film. The third thing I really loved is the writing. There's some very sharp writing and some really funny touches, like some really funny things that Bond will say that will make you chuckle. So kind of in the middle of all this action and all this excitement, you've got some really kind of funny asides that will make you smile during this, and you kind of need those in a movie that is this long. And the last thing I really loved are the 007 touches. You have a lot of callbacks to earlier Bond films, be it posters, be it the sequences where he's walking up and he turns around and fires his pistol in kind of the James Bond way, even though he has like a submachine gun on him. He kind of does that James Bond turn and fire. There's a lot of things like that. There's a lot of Bond throughout. Most of it drinks some scotch, but there is one scene where he orders a martini shaken, not stirred. So you get a lot of those touches that if you're a fan of the series and if you've seen a lot of these Bond films, then you'll kind of appreciate. And if you haven't, you know what? It's just fun to see. But it's kind of has a lot of nice little Easter eggs for people that have been following the series and are fans of all the Bond films, not just the Daniel Craig ones. So things I didn't love. I guess the first is just the story overall. And that's not to say that this isn't an enjoyable film. There's just some things about the story that don't feel like they're very well explained, and that might be because there were cuts. I mean, this is already a 2 hour and 43-minute film, and it kind of fills out. It doesn't feel like there's any sort of filler in that 2 hours and 43 minutes. So I could totally see large chunks being cut just to kind of get it into a theatrical length. And so you've got some instances like, for example, the main villain is this person named Safin, played by Rami Malek, and he almost isn't introduced until very late. And even when he is, there isn't really enough time to establish him as a scary villain. Like, he kind of gets introduced late in the film, and then it just kind of barrels towards the conclusion. So you don't really have much of a sense of fear for him. I mean, even though Malek does his best to make a creepy character, it just, the way that he's introduced just makes it seem like he's almost an aside. I mean, his character is hinted at throughout the film, but he doesn't get much screen time, and then it's kind of over but after we really kind of see him. And there's things like that. There's there are characters that are kidnapped that you don't really get a good explanation. They never really give a good explanation for certain features of Safin. Like, his face is kind of looks a little shriveled or scarred, and I think they mentioned that maybe I was poisoned, but it feels like there are just some things that are not fully fleshed out. And again, that could be just because of the length. And the second thing I didn't love is the length. Although it's not a major complaint, because I do feel like this film had plenty of action, plenty of locales, and it didn't feel like there was much filler. But the movie is long, so just kind of go in prepared for that. It's 2 hours and 43 minutes, which is a long time to be back in the theater, especially if you haven't been for a while. So just be ready for it. It doesn't feel like there is much that they could have cut from this film. I'm sure there always is, but again, this feels like a solid movie. Doesn't really feel like there's much that they kind of threw in just to kill time. So, but just be prepared, because it is a long one. The third thing I didn't love is the ending, and we'll go into that. It's not a bad ending. Like I said, it's a good movie. There's some issues with the ending, but overall, I think the ending is pretty good. But as you'll find out, there's some things I didn't love about it. So let's go into the ending right now. So in this film, the ultimate weapon that Bond is trying to stop are these nanobots that were partially developed by M as a means of kind of assassination. It was supposed to be a specialized weapon because you can code them in with DNA, and then those bots will go and seek out that specific individual. It's not like they're gonna fly that DNA, but if you spray them on someone or something that has that DNA, then they will attack it. So it's a kind of a really nice, well, not nice, but it's a way to have a very targeted weapon, because you can key it to a very specific individual or set of individuals. They mentioned that you could do it to a specific sequence or variations on that. So you could take out family, or you could take out relatives. So it has the potential to be a very bad weapon, and spoiler, it could become a very bad weapon after Safin gets a hold of it. So Safin has the nanobot weapon. I forget what it's called. It's like Hermes or it's not Hermes or Hercules, but it's something along those lines. And so he takes the weapon to his secret poison island that's in a disputed part of the world that's off the coast of Japan and Russia. I guess it's disputed by Japan, Russia, and I forget, there was no other nation that was kind of in the mix here. Probably China. We'll go with China. And so he takes the weapon to his disputed island. And also when he does that, he kidnaps Bond's former girlfriend, now I guess current girlfriend, Madeline, and her daughter, Matilda, who has striking blue eyes. And he brings them with him to his poison island. So the bonds, in this case, there are two bonds because there is James Bond, who was retired, and then there is the new Bond, Naomie, who is the new 007. She, took over his number when he retired. In a very strange scene, she gives his number back to him, which I actually didn't like. I mean, I understand it's James Bond, he's 007, the number has meaning to him, but he had retired, and there was a lot of scenes where it was kind of her rubbing in his face, but also him kind of realizing that things had moved on. And so I kind of would have liked it if she didn't give it back because she earned it. Like presumably she earned that number, she earned that designation, and she has been doing missions as 007. So it really felt odd that she would give it back to him for this one last mission. But I guess it does make a nice scene for him getting 007 back and her kind of realizing how much it means to him. But I thought it would have been a better film if she would have kept it. Obviously, that then lets her go into future Bond films as 007. So I thought that was also a strange reason for her to give it up. But it was nice to have Daniel Craig back with the number. But in any event, both of the 007s infiltrate this island. So they get to the island and discover this whole kind of poison operation. He's building all these different poisons, and it looks like he's also kind of trying to grow enough nanobots to target a lot of individuals. And here's kind of where the ending doesn't make a ton of sense, doesn't feel very explained. I mean, I guess he has archives of all this DNA, and it's unclear what all this DNA is from. But he's coding these bots to all that DNA. And then there's simulations of kind of how much destruction it would happen. And you see kind of the bots being targeted all over the world. So I wasn't sure if it was like a Thanos kind of the world is overpopulated, so I'm going to take out a bunch of the world, or if this was a more of a like, I want to have this able to strike anywhere in the world so that no one will bother me. Like I want the ultimate power. It's kind of the ultimate finger on the button. I couldn't tell. And the plot didn't really explain why he wanted this, but you do get the sense that this is a very dangerous weapon. So the Bonds try to stop it. So they find the scientist that helped develop this with M, who had defected to this other organization. I guess we'll just call it Safin's organization because it's not the main Bond enemy organization Scepter. It's this new one. So when they find him, Naomie stays back to stop, to kind of make sure he doesn't go anywhere and protect him until Bond is back. And then Bond goes to stop Safin. So when he gets to Safin, he has Matilda, the daughter there. Now, I'm pretty sure it's Matilda. I looked it up in the notes, and her name isn't listed, but I'm pretty sure it was Matilda. It was Madeline and Matilda, I believe. And he's kind of holding her hostage. I mean, they're having tea, so it's not like an overtly hostage situation, but you get the sense that this is a hostage situation. And there's guards around. And so basically, he gives Bond an ultimatum. He says, you can take Matilda and leave with her, as long as you leave me with my weapons and poison and my special poison fortress. And he also drops the hint that we've all been suspecting up until now. When Madeline first introduces Matilda to Bond, she very clearly says he's not hers. But she has these striking blue eyes that look strikingly similar to Daniel Craig's. So you're always wondering, I wonder. Well, Safin tells him that this is actually his daughter. So he can leave with his daughter. And then as long as he leaves Safin with his poison, his children, his poison. As you would expect, Bond doesn't take that offer. But he kind of grovels when Safin threatens Matilda, and he pulls out a gun and then boom, 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 hits all the guards. But then when he goes to try to take out Safin, Safin is lowered down into this elevator container thing. Again, I feel like Bond could have done it, but maybe it's just Daniel Craig getting old and he can't move as fast as he normally should have. But I feel like he could have shot Safin. But anyway, so Safin is taking Matilda away, and while he's taking her away, she bites him to get free because she starts talking about her doll that she's missing. There was this bunny doll, and so she bites him to get away from him, and he basically is like, you can choose to leave my protection but you're on your own. And so she leaves, which is very weird because he'd been using her as a bargaining chip, and then now he just kind of lets her go, which I don't know. It felt odd. It felt very kind of convoluted, like an easy way to kind of move the story along. But in any event, Bond meets up with Madeline, who was also taken hostage. She was being held in a cell, but she escaped. So Bond and Madeline meet up in this tea room, the room that he was in before. And lo and behold, Matilda's also there. So hey, they're all together. They're all reunited. So Bond, Madeline, and Matilda go back down and meet up with Naomie, who was watching the doctor, but she killed him because he was an asshole. He made some racist comments, and so he did die. In any event, so they all meet up, and Naomie takes Madeline and Matilda away off the island, and Bond stays back to make sure that the island gets destroyed. And so when they leave, Bond essentially tells Q that he needs to launch some missiles to take out this island because it's just too dangerous. So, the nanobots are there; they're a dangerous weapon. They just have to destroy everything. And so before doing that, Bond lowers the blast doors because this island is protected and it has blast doors. So he lowers the blast doors, tells Q to shoot the missiles, destroy the island, because there's also this there's enemy ships coming to, I guess, take the weapons, and so they want to intercept. They want to destroy the island before those ships get there. So he tells them to shoot the missiles. So as he's leaving, he's kind of running to escape the island. The missiles are coming. I think he has 9 minutes after the missiles launch, and so as he's leaving, he finds the doll that Matilda was asking for. It's like this cute bunny doll. And so he grabs that, thinking, yeah, this will be perfect. He puts it in his belt. And then he notices the blast doors are going back up, which obviously means that someone survived. Someone got up to the control room and put them back up. So Bond runs up to try to stop them again, but this time he meets Safin, and Safin and him get into a fight, a very short fight, but a fight nonetheless. Safin shoots him a couple times, and then they get into a hand-to-hand fight. And during this fight, Bond eventually wins, but Safin scratches him with this with a variation of the nanobot poison that essentially turns him into like a typhoid Mary. He's fine, but if he touches Matilda or Madeline, and I'm not sure if it was further than that, but he definitely mentioned Matilda and Madeline, then they will get the nanobots and they will die. It must be keyed to at least their DNA. So essentially, it's actually a pretty tragic scene because Bond is kind of, at this point, he is ready to retire. He's made up with Madeline. He realizes that Matilda is his daughter. It feels like he's going to have like this perfect life, or at least this perfect retirement life. But then he gets scratched in the form, in pursuing his duty, and realizes that he can't have that. He can never see them again. I mean, I guess he could have suited up into this clean room suit, but then there's always the risk if he ever touches them, then they would die. I guess he could have, I don't know, I feel like there must have been some way to stop it, right? Like there are nanobots, I don't know, maybe some sort of really heavy EMT or some really heavy EMP pulse might have done something. I don't think he had a pacemaker, so he probably would have been fine. But in any event, maybe you probably don't want to risk it. And he was already shot 2 or 3 times, so it might have just been the straw that broke the camel's back. But I feel like he could have weathered this. They could have gotten him suited up. But I guess the other concern is if he touches someone, then that transfers to them, and that puts the family in danger as well, because the nanobots will just kind of keep moving, and eventually they might find their way to Madeline and Matilda. So I guess it is good that he decides not to pursue them and not to try to get it fixed. So he kind of makes his way up, opens the blast doors again as the missiles are coming, and climbs up to the top of the control panel. He climbs up outside, essentially, to the roof of this building, and he calls Madeline. And there he has a really lovely conversation with her about how Matilda's perfect, and how she did she's perfect because she has Madeline in her, and how she needs to live her life. And then Madeline realizes that Bond got infected with this, and he's not coming back. And so there's this really touching, sad scene. More emotional than I would have expected. But I guess we've had Bond for a very long time, and we've had Daniel Craig. Daniel Craig's been a very good Bond. I really like the Daniel Craig movies. So when we realize that this is going to be over, it is a little more emotional. But so they have their conversation, and then the missiles come, and they hit right where Bond is, because he's staying on the base. And so that appears to be the end of Daniel Craig. So thank you for the movies, Mr. Craig. And then that's that's it. Although I will say there was a really, if you play Risk of Rain, there's this really great shot. I don't know if it's actually inspired by it, but it feels like it could have been. Because Daniel Craig finds the rabbit and he sticks it in his belt, and so it looks very much like the Risk of Rain character who has in that game. There's a teddy bear that gives you health, and so your character will have this like teddy bear stuffed in his belt or his or her belt as you're playing the game, and it felt like it could have been a throwback there. I mean, I don't know if any of them play this game. It's kind of a not obscure, but it's a less known game. But I really enjoyed it. I thought that was a great reference. If that is, I'm gonna pretend like it is. I think it is. But in any event, after this scene, there's this nice, memorial-ish with all, a few of the Bond characters. M is there, Q is there, Penny, Money Penny is there, and they all kind of pour one out for James. So again, and then that's it. That's the ending. That's the movie. And so you get this kind of, it feels like there are some holes in there. Like it feels like it could have been, some of the stuff that happens is a little convenient. But overall, I do think it's a good ending. So I know I put it as a negative. I think it's a good ending. It's a fitting kind of end for Daniel Craig, and it does kind of put some closure on his arc. And then during the credits at the very end, after everything, after all the credits, the company logos, it pops up saying James Bond will return. So I mean, I assume that means a new Bond will be crowned, but I kind of liked Naomie as a 007. I thought that would be an interesting way to go. But it sounds like there will be a new 007 male Bond in the future. And I guess that makes sense because I assume MGM does like dump trucks of money. But this appears to be the end of the Daniel Craig arc. So that is No Time to Die. Like I said, it's a good movie to see in theaters. It's a good movie to kind of experience because it has a lot of the things that you love about seeing a movie in theaters. So if you're comfortable, I would go see it. It comes out October 8th, 2021, but it is a very long film, so make sure you're ready. So that's No Time to Die. If you like this review, please like and subscribe to this channel. It helps me a lot. Make sure all my new content goes straight to you. Thank you.